Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends in Recovery Podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here today with Jersey Ed and Noontime with Sky. Nice
Hi, guys. Hey, no, you're not listening to a old podcast, guys. You're listening to the current podcast. We do have the Podfather on with us today. How you doing, Podfather?
Podfather's turn. Good, doing well. I just I couldn't be any happier. Life's good right now. Good.
And why is life good? Why is life good?
Well, my son Christopher just got married to his lovely bride Claire.
Nice.
And that was September 24th. And my oldest daughter Michelle will be getting engaged tomorrow night. She doesn't even know about it. She just flew into Mexico. She landed there at 12 o'clock this afternoon. She flew out of Boston at 6 a.m. And her husband-to-be, Bill, came by last Saturday and told me his intentions to marry.
Wow.
Asked me what I thought, and I think it's great. So, how can you beat it?
Amazing. Good for you, Podfather.
One more thing. I went to see Rent, the second to last performance of Rent at the Wilbur Theater last Sunday in Boston, and it was phenomenal. It was just 14 extremely talented singers, dancers, actors. I'm telling you, it gave me such joy to be there. Good. It was awesome.
So Rent is a sponsor of our show now. No, I'm just kidding, Podfather.
We went to the early show, and the final show was at 6:30, and that was going to be the final show of Rent. They've been touring since 2019, so it's very successful. I'm sure they'll come back eventually, but it was incredible. It was about a transsexual gentleman, lady that ends up dying, but bringing so many people together with his or her ability to love and reach out, and it was just incredible. It was
good.
3.5 hours of sheer delight.
God, years ago, we wouldn't be talking about this, right? I mean, when we were using, well, real quick, before we get into everything, before I get into the Facebook stuff and the contest, I do want to wish the Podfather happy 35-year anniversary about 5 days ago. So Podfather just celebrated 35 years of sobriety. And Podfather, tell us, is that all in a row? 35 in a row?
Including weed and alcohol.
Yeah.
Continuous sobriety. I'm very fortunate with the help of AA and the good Lord above. I feel, and people like yourselves. I very fortunate. October 17th, 1986, I went away and got help, and it's been working ever since.
Congratulations, Podfather. Good. And it definitely has been working ever since. So, real quick, guys, before we get into our topic today, because everybody was asking for it, and it's, we had a great kind of run on the last one is trust issues. So we're doing trust issues part 2 today. We're going to talk more about that first, but I do want to talk about Instagram and Facebook. Please look for us on Instagram, Facebook, like us, Friends in Recovery communities, Friends in Recovery adventures, Friends in Recovery alumni. If you're an alumni, please, kind of get that together and see if you can get on there. I also want to talk about the contest, The Power of Now. We're giving away the book, The Power of Now, to 2 people, I believe we said. Didn't we say 2 people? I think it was. Well, if not, then we'll give away to 2 people. Just send me an email. Just a sober shout out, just say, hey, whatever it is, make sure you include a phone number or something, just in case you win, I can get a hold of you guys. If not, I'll just email you back and we will get those books out to you. You have another couple days up. It's almost the end of the month. So the beginning of November, we will announce the winner. So guys, last show, 2 shows ago, we were talking about trust issues.
Right.
Trust issues before recovery, trust issues, what we did and how we can build those up. So my thought was, because everybody's been sending emails, and Skylar, you and I were talking about it, and we got Podfather interested in this topic to bring him, to dust him off the shelf and bring him back on to talk about trust issues. And this is a super important part of our recovery, trust issues, because not only do we have to have others trust us, we have to trust ourselves. And then on top of it all, we have to trust people in recovery. We have to trust people who's been there, who's run this road before us, who's made the mistakes, who we look up to. And I'm talking about sponsors. I'm talking about people like the Podfather with all the years that he has, people in our networks, people who we meet. We have to trust those guys to say, hey, listen, Mr. Sponsor, I have some of these dark hidden secrets that I need to talk to you about. And once they're on the table, man, you can't bring them back. So you really got to trust somebody. That's my thoughts on this. You really have to trust somebody to really excel in the program, to, do your 4th and 5th step, to, keep on, staying sober and all that. So that was my thoughts on trust issues part 2, because we know we have to build the trust up. We know we have to do what we have to do early in life. And on the first part of this show, Podfather, you weren't on, but I know you listened to it. We talked about, we know at the beginning when we were sober, we knew that we were going to stay sober. I mean, at least I knew it. And I know, Skylar, you talked about it too, because we just ran with it. And Podfather, I know your story too. And we all knew that once we got handed this gift, that was it. But just because we stayed sober and just because we got 20 days together or 50 days together, that doesn't mean people trust us. That doesn't mean that we are trustworthy. We have to earn that trust. And that was the first show about that. So do you guys have anything on that before we get into this trust issues part 2 about maybe trust and recovery?
It's huge.
Yeah. Well, just be real quick. I think you said it, Ed, you have to earn people's trust back. I know personally, I made a lot of promises when I was trying to get sober, and I had great intentions, but, addiction and alcoholism just wouldn't let me be the person I wanted to be until I got sober. And then when I got sober, my father used to say to me, Mickey, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one. I really didn't know what he meant, but to me, he was talking about walking the walk. And, I would tell him all the things I would do. I'll take out the rubbish. I'll mow the lawn. I'll do this. I'll do that. And it wouldn't get done. So I really do believe that the longer you're sober, obviously you do earn people's trust back. And it's a gift from the program, is to be trusted, because we're all liars. We're all cheats. When we're active, we can be thieves. But when we get sober, that's not who we are. Yeah. We loathe that person. We don't want to be that person. So we get sober, and I believe the closer you stay to this program and keep your sobriety, you'll have no problem at all with trust. People will begin to trust you again.
Absolutely. That's a good point, Podfather. And that takes, again, like we said last show, time takes time. Trust takes time also. So Sky, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I know people always say, you get self-esteem by doing esteemable acts. And I think that's trust is the same. Like, we get trust by doing trustable acts. Yeah. I still can't be trusted with being on time, because I have not mastered that character defect yet. And my actions show me still being late. So these are just things that, I have to work on today. But over the years, that's why, because I kept being late. So, that's why I have to work on that, different things. But our actions, I think, super line up to it. But I know that it's huge for me, because I had to trust that these people weren't lying to me, that I could get better. I had to trust that my secrets were safe with them. I had to trust other people's secrets with myself, and it was just a lot. But I knew that it was super important, because how else was I going to do the steps without trust? At least honestly, right? You know? So
Yeah.
I knew it was super huge. And I think I got down, I've been thinking about this topic like past couple of days and all, just because the last show and everything. And because I have trust issues, right? And I'm thinking like, what's the exact nature? Let's get to the bottom of it, And I'm thinking trust really has a lot to do with faith, and and that's where I think I struggle with it. But over the years, having faith in this program, having faith in people in the program has built that trust. That's why I kind of felt like they went together, and I just think about how my faith has grown just like the same way my trust has grown over the years in the program,
Absolutely. Well, and that is a big leap from where we've been, because I couldn't trust myself to walk down the road, without buying drugs or having some devious plan, or a bottle of alcohol with me or whatever. I couldn't trust myself. But once getting to recovery, and I know I built that little bit of trust up amongst myself, and I was able to get my life in order enough to work the steps, enough to trust myself, knowing that step 1, 2, and 3 is going to help me immediately if I apply them to my life. Step 1, 2, and 3 is going to help me grow immediate in my life. I had to trust that step 1, 2, and 3, they're not, came to believe a power greater than ourselves, can lead us, powerless over alcohol and all that stuff. They're not tangible. It's not something we can touch and feel and work. We have to understand that. We have to trust that God's going to do what we couldn't do for ourselves. So that's huge right there. Number one. Number two, now I'm believing in this oogie boogie man that you're telling me to believe in, that I know that I didn't trust, because all these years that I've been using, there was no God there for me. There really was. He was watching over me and my family, but I didn't have the trust in myself to trust God. Now I have to believe these intangible items that you're telling me to believe in, and then I got to spill my guts to somebody. That's a tough one. Now I got to trust you. I wanted you to trust me. Now I got to trust you. I'm going to tell you shit that I've never told anybody, that I did behind closed doors, that I did that without people knowing, that I did to people without even them knowing, and I hurt or screwed them over. And you want me to tell another human being? Man, that's a lot of trust I got to build in you. But there's a reason why they're step 4 and 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the trust comes in. I just had somebody say the other day, Ed, is it normal for somebody to stay on step 1? My sponsor wants me to be step on 1. I'm like, fuck yeah. If you need to know that you're powerless over and you keep relapsing or you keep doing what you're doing, you need to stay in step 1 as long as you can. Know that I'm powerless over alcohol. Know I'm powerless over women. Know I'm powerless over men. Know I'm powerless over drugs, sex, gambling, whatever it is. Until I can get that step right, I can't believe in myself, let alone trust myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but how about it, guys?
My sponsor always tells me I'm good at going back to 2 and 3. So I think I believe in that. She goes, Skylar, going back to the insanity and taking your will back, So I do believe in that we can go back and retract and then have to give it back. And
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I had a real hard time. I was about 14 months sober, and I started getting major panic and anxiety attacks. And they were very frightening and debilitating. And somebody told me to read steps 1, 2, and 3. So I want a little pocket step book, a little book that would fit in my pocket. It was a step book, the 12 steps, 12 traditions. And I would read steps 1, 2, and 3 several times a day, because I'd be full blown panic. I didn't know what else to do. So I got to know them word for word, verbatim. And I'm really glad I ended up having anxiety and panic. And it lasted about 18 months. It was really debilitating. But I got to know steps 1, 2, and 3. And when I finally did step 4 and 5, I did it with a priest I never met before. I get rid of everything that bothered me, that I was thinking that was important and devious, just not who I was or wanted to be. And I can't tell you how good I felt afterwards. But people come to me now because of my business. I counsel people, and they want to talk about step 4 and 5. And I tell them, make sure you find somebody that has a lot of sobriety and somebody you can trust, because there's no guarantee we're all going to stay sober tomorrow, even though we're sober today. And when you lose sobriety, you know what? You lose your morals, and things people might have told you, you might use them against them. So be very, very careful who you share that with.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where that trust, and I believe we can call the show Trust and Recovery, because that's where we're going with this. And it took me a long time to trust somebody in recovery. It took me I had 2 sponsors before my current sponsor right now. And I'll tell you what, my first sponsor, he sponsored so many people. He was one of those guys, he's a good guy, but he just sponsored so many people that, like, how was I going to tell this guy my deepest, darkest secrets? Not even step 4 and 5. I'm just saying every day, like, I feel like drinking today. That at the time when I stayed sober was a big deal to me, that I want to drink today. Sometimes it'll be a thought. My sponsor always says you can't control the first thought, but you control all the next thoughts. It's no big deal now. But when I was 1 month, 2 months, 3, even a year or 2 years sober, I wanted to drink was a big deal. And I had to trust somebody. I couldn't just tell anybody that I wanted to drink. Right. Because how are they going to look at me? Am I going to be, will they support me? Won't they support me? Will I get shunned from AA? All this stuff. So I think the trust comes right from the beginning of trying to build these people up. So that first sponsor wasn't any good. Second sponsor, and not that he wasn't any good, it just wasn't for me. He just wasn't the person for me. And again, I not that I couldn't trust him, but I just didn't feel comfortable. My third sponsor, which was all within about a year or 2 years of everything. He's still my Andy V, who, if you go back a couple of shows, go back last summer, you'll see him. He's been my sponsor for probably 20 some years, 25, 26 years now. That's a man I can trust. That's a man I can call up and say, Andy, I was thinking this, or Andy, this, blah, blah, blah. There is not a thing that I cannot tell my sponsor today that I don't trust him with. And Mike, Podfather, you made a good point. Everybody's open to relapse. Even my sponsor, who has 37 years, is open to relapse if we don't work this program. But you know what? People like you, Podfather, people like Skylar, who works their programs, I fucking trust you guys 100%. Because I know you guys work a good program. I know what you guys do. I know you guys inside and out. So that's where that trust comes from too. Not just saying, hey, Mr. Sponsor, I need you, blah, blah, blah. I need to know you inside and out so I can trust you and tell you this shit that I don't even want to think about, let alone fucking tell another human being.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that we trusted the dope man. We didn't even know his last name. Just saying. We didn't even know the liquor store attendant name.
Right. Yeah,
right? Like, seriously, think about that. It's crazy that we did that. It's insane.
The bartenders I told some shit to.
Right?
I used to buy my drug dealer a freaking Christmas present because I wanted him to think I was the best guy in the world, And he was the guy telling me, hey, you're doing way too much of this stuff. This is going to kill you,
Yeah.
Just real quick, just going back, I was just thinking, I've been a temporary sponsor maybe a couple dozen times, but I've only been a sponsor twice in my life, and both my sponsorees have died. They're dead, Joe and Kevin, and both of them are gone, because I always knew how busy I was before I even had a business, just in my life, and because of the job I once had as a policeman, I just didn't think I should be a sponsor. I don't know. I would always say, I'll be a temporary sponsor. We're going to find you a good one. And that's what I would do. I just didn't think I was sponsor material. I'll be honest,
Mike, and I have to agree with you 100%. To this day, still, I don't think I'm a good sponsor. Every time my sponsee calls me, I only have one now, but I'm thinking, they're going to fire me. They're going to fire me every single time. They're going to fire me. I need to trust myself to know that person's calling me because they want to tell their deepest, darkest secrets. Maybe not deepest, darkest secrets, but the secrets that they have for that day, or the feelings that they have for that day. Even feelings, telling somebody your feelings, especially guys, right? Right, Podfather? I'm going to tell Podfather that I feel upset or that I want to fucking cry like a baby. Come on. I have to really trust somebody to tell somebody that, you know what I mean? Really. Now, women, I don't know if it's different. But men, we don't cry at a lot of lot of stuff. So, I don't know how your thoughts are on that, Sky.
Well, I grew up around brothers, so mine are pretty similar just from that values. Like, you know what I mean? Because so feelings, I cried about everything, but it was like, all right, Sky, shut up, but and that actually kind of helped me in a little bit just to kind of like be able to in time and place, but I think that it's really hard to talk to other women to say how we really feel. I had skinny girls on my step 4, and then why do you resent skinny girls? Because I wasn't one of them, and I had to tell a girl that, and she was fucking skinny.
Oh,
but how else was I going to get rid of that resentment?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the weird stuff. And then I was thinking about, I had a sponsor that went back out, and we were on a 4-step. So I was so scared, but that's why I think I thought about the faith is important, because our higher powers have our back. We know that, right? But like, we always fear, like, I remember one of my fears, like, well, if I get a sponsor that relapses, they're going to tell my business. And that's not like, that's a legitimate fear, and it might happen. But the reality is our higher powers got us, and we have to be, when we trust ourselves, that means we're trusting the character of the people we're around too. Mm-hmm. That's why they say people, places, and things. You know what I mean? Because if I'm around people that stole from me, it's because they're not really trustable. I shouldn't really probably been around them to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I grew up with all sisters, and I was watching Field of Dreams a few weeks ago. It was a movie with Kevin Costner, and I got emotional at the end because I wish I had my dad. I could not play catch with, but just talk to. I watched The League of Their Own 2 weeks ago. Great movie, and again, I'm 67. League of Their Own. They all come back to Cooperstown, New York, when they're all elderly. I'm sorry about the car noise. When they're all elderly. Well, I'm elderly now, and my life has kind of gone by. I'm happy with my life. Don't get me wrong, but I can get emotional. But what I've found with my emotions is crying and laughing come from the same part of the brain. And you know what? After I tear up a little bit, I feel good. So I don't have a problem crying. I don't go blubbering in front of strangers.
Yeah.
Well, and that's and that's what Skylar put up. Trust the people I'm around. I think that's what you said, Sky. I just wrote it down. But let's be serious. I mean, us on this show, we air out every dirty secret probably we have, but not every dirty secret, but we're pretty open on this show as far as our lives go. But and if people talk about us, we know this is a different avenue, but in real life, that could be harmful, especially like I also had a sponsor that went out too, but he called me in his office. We worked together. He called me in his office and he said, Ed, listen, I'm going to have to let you go as a sponsee. He didn't do his, he didn't say, fuck you, never ignored me, whatever. He sat me down. And he said, Ed, he goes, I'm in recovery from heroin, pot, and he was NA. I was AA. We just kind of, my second sponsor just kind of gelled. And he said, but I'm drinking. He said, and I don't think it's going to be good for you that I'm your sponsor. I admired that man for telling me that, number one. And also I knew that I could trust him. Anything I told him, he's not going to go back out and blab about it. First of all, who the hell knows Jersey Ed anyways, except for on here, but hey, listen, Ed, slept with a monkey the other day. People aren't really going to know who that is, but the point is that he's still somebody I would probably trust. I have not seen him in years, but just because of what he told me, I trusted it. I still trust him, but like you said, Skylar, we have to surround our people with people who we can believe in. And the minute that we know that person isn't trustworthy, and I'm not talking about our inner circle people, I'm talking about maybe our second or third outer circle, that we have to replace those people. Those people have no business being in our lives anymore. I don't care if they're sober, straight, they're whatever, normies or whatever. There's times that we have to just kind of get rid of those people in our lives. I'm not saying say, fuck you, see you later, but I'm saying, listen, this person doesn't serve me good purpose anymore because either I don't trust them or they're not trust. Exactly. So that's kind of another part of trust too. And that's surrounding yourself with like-minded people,
Yeah.
So,
what's important to do, I think, is, we all have one day of sobriety. That's how we try to live our lives. That's how I try to live my life. I ask for help every morning and I thank every night. I thank my higher power. who I choose to call, my God of my understanding. I don't know what he looks like, but I have an idea of how much I can trust the faith I have because he's brought me this far, and I'm very grateful for what I do have. But I just look at it one day at a time. So I have a day of sobriety. We all have a day of sobriety. And that's all we really have. You can't live on sobriety. I don't care if you're 100 years sober. It means absolutely nothing other than you've had 100 years of sobriety. But what about today? Are you doing the right thing today? Are you, if you don't take care of today, you might not get to tomorrow. And if you don't get to tomorrow, then you've defeated everything and you got to start over. So I'm very, very grateful that I have at least today a half a day of sobriety. And, I'm pretty sure I'll get through the day. But, it's just, you really have to stay on top of it because if you don't, you stop going to meetings, and you stop being around people that are like you. That's the magic of the program, I believe, is going to a meeting. I've never walked out of a meeting feeling worse than when I got there. Never. And I've gone to meetings, my life was in the toilet. And I've always left a meeting feeling better. So
yeah. Well, that's the other part of trust and recovery is going to a meeting when you're feeling like shit. Going to a meeting when when you don't want to go. The last couple of weeks because work started kicking in a little bit more. I haven't been on the meetings a lot, and I'm like, well, I'm doing okay, but no, I'm not. I need to get to a meeting, and I went to a meeting on Wednesday night. And there was a pastor on there on our Friends in Recovery meetings at 7 p.m., our 7 p.m. meeting. And he was sharing his story and he just resonated with me. And it was just a really good meeting. And, I really enjoyed what he had to say. He said that he believes in God, just like you said. And I know I believe in God and my understanding. But one thing that I've never heard a pastor say is that, how do I know there is a God? I know I believe in him, but when I die, I might just go into the ground. I may not ever meet my God, but you know what? It's that trust that we have to have. It's that understanding of somebody bigger and better than myself, my bullshit decisions, my stuff that I should have never made kind of ways with. I now, like you said, Mike, I get on my knees every morning and I thank my higher power. Now, is there a higher power? I believe there is, but I don't know. It's something I just have to trust in. And that's part of my recovery, trusting in something like step 1, 2, and 3 that we can't feel, touch, taste, or see.
That's right.
Well, we can't always touch trust, but I have evidence that there's trust.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like I have evidence of people that have been there and like my solids, so that's helped build trust to show me, you know what I mean? Like what trust is, you know what I mean? I can't touch it and reach it, but I can feel it. Maybe that's a better way, but it's one of those things where I can build evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I told Ed Scott, I have a new client in our group and she's a mom, 3 children, she's going through a hard time. So when she heard I had a podcast, she's into podcasts. So I told her Friends in Recovery. So what she got was the last 4 or 5 podcasts. So she didn't see me. So she came in and she said, I've been watching the podcast. I love it. I love girl Skylar and Ed is great. She said, and then other people in the group said, oh, Ed's been up here. Ed's actually shared meetings here. She's like all excited. And she goes, well, what about you? I said, well, you got to go back a ways. I said, I haven't been on a podcast in about 2 months because I've just been really busy and I've really had to attend to other things. But I was so happy to hear her. I could see it in her eyes. She like really, really enjoyed the last couple of podcasts. So I watched the Trust podcast that you guys did and I could see why she liked it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Give her my number.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, that's how all this works. And when Podfather, when you step back from the show to do the other show and busy life comes on, you trusted in us because you and I built this together. And this is something that turned into a major community. And with Skylar's help, we built this huge community of friends in recovery. We had to trust, number one, that this was still going to do okay. We were going to be okay without the Podfather, number one. And number two, the Podfather had to say, listen, I trust you guys enough to get this going. to keep this going, to keep our ideas out there, to keep this understanding, to get this, keep this show going. And with you not on the show for the last couple of weeks, and hopefully you'll come on more and more here and there if your life calmed down a little bit, that this underlying tone, this is really because of you, Podfather, starting all this stuff. That day in January in Salem, New Hampshire, walking upstairs. I'll tell the story real quick. So Podfather and I always go to this place to have a cigar, just so you guys can have this understanding of it. And for years, 10 years, we've been going to this cigar place, smoking a cigar, whatever. He goes, you want to go upstairs and go do a podcast? I'm like, what are you talking about? A podcast, right? So I'm thinking, wait a minute, does he have his gun on him? Is he gonna take me upstairs and I'm never gonna find me again? I've never even been upstairs, and I didn't even know there's a
I never texted this point too. The technology was like a podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we took that faith, and because of his sobriety, because of where I know how strong he is in his recovery, I said, let's try it. And I was scared as shit to do this podcast at the beginning, but I had Mike beside me. I had the Podfather beside me. And, we had Jeff on the show too. And it really went well, and it's still going well over 3 years later now, guys. And that's a lot of trust. That's a lot of trust to kind of just get out there and talk about recovery. The other thing too is, who wants to listen to Ed Chancho, Jersey Ed, on a weekly basis on a podcast that I have the right information I'm giving somebody? I have to trust myself that I know the people I surround my life with, I got good information that I can pass on to our listeners now. Same thing with Podfather, same thing with you, Sky, that all the people, all the years that we built our lives together, that we have to trust that we are right where we're at, supposed to be, and talking about this information weekly. We don't do this every month or every other month. We do this weekly, and we get good shows out. And that woman, God bless her, she's listening to a good podcast. I have to tell you that, because I listen to them, and we have some pretty good podcasts. I got to be honest with you. So
yeah, we do. Yeah. My daughter Michelle loves them, and I know she'll watch this one when she comes back, and because she doesn't even know she's going to be getting engaged tomorrow. I think it's awesome.
Well, this will go out a couple days later, so she won't even know it. So
no, gets back. Yeah, she's coming back days from now. So.
Yeah. So trust and recovery, guys. I think we beat it up the subject pretty good. Anybody have any last word? Oh, before we do some closing words, I forgot to let you guys know when and I forgot the last two shows, Facebook and Instagram, and the contest, the Power of Now book that we're giving away. Our email address, if you want to email us, is help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. If you're watching the show, Carl does put it up for us. It comes up, but I did not verbally talk about it because some of you guys listen to it on the podcast catchers and not on YouTube. But please, help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Give us some feedback. Give us whatever you guys want. Say, want to enter a contest. If you want to be a guest, that's the best way to do it. And speaking of Carl, guys, SoberPod. Yes, Podfather, I still have my man crush on SoberPod. Okay. They're just a really good show. I listen to them weekly. Just to let you guys know, the last couple episodes, they've been trying to bring Steve back. Steve has a thing called stiff person's disease or stiff person syndrome, and he hasn't been on it. So Steve, it's good to hear you back. Robot Steve, anyways, they call him Robot Steve now because he does stuff, he records some stuff and then they kind of talk around it, which is really cool. I got some ideas at Podfather, we can bring you in on that. But anyways, I just wanted to give a quick shout out because I neglected to say hello to Steve and SoberPod last week. But your final thoughts, guys, on trust issues in recovery. Trust issues in recovery. To sum it up, Podfather, what do you say about trust issues in recovery?
Well, obviously, we get together in a group setting. They started doing this back in the 30s. Bill Wilson, Bob Smith, and a few other people. And they found that the power of communication and being honest and open and talking about, all your personal feelings, emotions, will help you feel better, get it out, catharsis. catharsis has been around for decades, centuries, money. So that's what it's all about. I just know the power of you still there?
Yeah, we got you. You're fading in and out, but you're there. Yep.
I lost you.
There you go.
Right. The power of the program for me is just being totally honest. I've learned to be honest with myself. I've learned to look in the mirror and really kind of like the person. I wish I wasn't so old, but other than that, I like who I am. I'm a good person, and I owe it all to AA. I really do, and the people in AA. And it's just trust yourself. If you're here, if you're looking for help, you need it, and trust that inner id that's telling you to continue doing what you're doing, because day at a time you can learn to stay sober, and your life will get remarkably better.
Oh, amazingly better, daily, day by day, in every way. I'm getting better and better. It's one of my daily affirmations. So yes, absolutely. As long as I work my program, that is. So Sky, how about you? Any closing remarks on trust issues in recovery?
If you're struggling with trust, just don't give up, because I think my opinion is that any healthy relationship you want to have in recovery, whether it be yourself, a significant other, family member, a friend, like trust is key. You know what I mean? I feel like that's so important. So if you're struggling with it, keep reaching out, keep talking about it, keep looking for the evidence, And I just real quick want to say for our October birthdays for our Genesis house, happy birthday to Kim and Steven. Awesome employees right there.
Happy birthday, guys. Kim and Steven. Happy birthday. So we can't. Get it, Podfather?
So what are your closing words on trust?
My closing words on trust are believe in yourself, just like the message that you guys were just talking about. Believe in yourself, trust yourself. I know when I was out there, and I'm probably understanding, probably speaking for 1,000 million people, but I know when I was out there, I did not trust myself. I did not believe in myself, but that comes. And the minute you get sober, guys, start trusting yourself. Call your sponsor, talk things out, be okay with what you're doing, with what you're going through, because trust me, it will pass. The problems I had 27 years ago, or I can't even tell you what they are today, but they were huge problems, and somebody said this too shall pass, and I had to trust them on that, and I had to understand that I'm hoping this fucking guy is right, because my divorce, my kids, my this, my that was a big thing in my life. It still is a big thing in my life today, my children. And somebody who drove the road before me, or kind of trudged the road before me, knew what I was going through. And I had to trust him to really understand that I'm going to be okay. So if there's anything I can give you guys, that you're going to be okay, as long as you put trust in yourself, number one, and then you can start putting trust in people. And when you trust in people and yourself, you start healing. And like Mike said, like Podfather said, it's due to AA and God that I am where I'm at today, and I trust what I trust, and I believe in what I believe in. So,
hey, thanks a lot for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate it. It's good seeing you. It's great seeing Skylar's $1 million smile. And
absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely, Podfather. We're happy to have you on here, and join us every once in a while, please. I know you're busy, but if you can get on, join us every once in a while. Guys, that is it that I have on trust issues in recovery. Podfather, would you like to take us out of here?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, Friends in Recovery podcast. Stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.